So those that know my teacher Thom Knoles or have studied with anyone who trained under him are familiar with this phraseology, follow charm. And it has both a metaphoric and a specific connotation within the practice of Vedic meditation or transcendental meditation, with how we practice the technique of it, but it also on the uber level of, how do I make a decision in life? And oftentimes, if you are meditating and you're cultivating that deep sense of capital S self, of what I don't just want on an impulsive, individualistic level, but what I want, what universe is intending through me, that I can trust what's charming, and you go towards that, even if it doesn't, quote, logically make sense or wouldn't be the obvious thing. And yet, sometimes we have to do things, right? We have children we have to take care of, or we have a boss whom we have to, produce work for, this or that. And so then the question becomes, well, what does following charm look like then? And usually the short answer is you surrender immediate charm for longer term charm, right? In a play, we talk about, a character has an objective in a scene, like I really want that piece of cake that someone else has, but the super objective is the thing that they really want throughout the play. And it's not about the cake, it's actually that I want this person to love me or something. And so that's what, the surrendering charm in a given moment. So for example, if you want to go to medical school and you need a certain score on the MCAT, it's not your preference. It's not charming to stay in every Friday night and study, but the greater charm is getting into the best med school that you can. And so you surrender that immediate charm of hanging out with your friends and partying so that you can achieve the long-term goal. But there are still many moments in life where we have to, in small ways or even daily ways, surrender a little bit of our preference, our charm, in the immediate sense for, complying with the kind of greater cosmic aim, or to move us towards more specific goals and things like that. And there is a way in which, when you bank the rivers of creativity, so to speak, which is what all technique does in any, athletic endeavor, in any musical or artistic realm, it actually makes the river flow more fully. Right? So, if you only practice the yoga poses that you're already good at, you're just going to get overly flexible in those places and then get tighter in the opposite areas. It brings a lot of benefit, but it's not fully rounded. So the same thing, if you never have any technique in what you're doing, right? Which is why we say with meditation, sometimes the most expensive form of meditation is just kind of freewheeling it. Never having any actual, however simple it might be, structure. And there is a paradox that structure can actually elicit greater freedom. We usually say, and it's funny because classical singing can sound so, to a certain ear, if you're not used to it, manufactured or unnatural. But actually the point of it is to have all of this technique so that you can kind of get out of your own way to sing holistically, fully, to sound more like yourself without amplification, without someone controlling, what the overtones are doing and how loud or soft you are from the back of the hall. Not only from the, practical standpoint of being able to cut through the orchestra or whatever, instrumentation there might be, but also so that the wholeness of you, every idiosyncrasy about your physicality as well as your spirituality, as well as you just personally, comes through in how you produce that sound. And so you train the voice to actually get back to a more natural way of singing. It's the same thing with Alexander technique. You're becoming more aware of all of the little unconscious habits so that you can get out of your own way to be more holistically yourself. And so I think that there, in a certain way, I don't mean this to negate that you ultimately follow charm moment to moment. Do I want to have dinner with this person or not? Do I want to go to this school or that school? But yes, we tap into that intuitive sense as meditators, what life is intending through us. Granted, we always say if you're stressed out and you're anxious and you're not meditating or working on yourself in some way, following charm would be hedonistic, nihilistic, and probably not going to serve you. So in that case, yes, use reason and analysis and use that for your decision-making framework. But again, in the context of meditation, there still is a place for not only the technique of how to practice the meditation, but sometimes doing things you don't want to do. It's not lost on me, the irony that I am sitting here recording this as a social media clip, and I hate doing social media. I avoided it for years. I still don't particularly like doing it. It doesn't feel organic to me, blah, 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 blah. But I live in a digital age. If I want to connect to whatever extent that I connect, or if this orchestrates whatever is going to orchestrate out there, you have to play in the time and in the world in which you live. Otherwise, you do cease to be relevant. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it like everyone else or that it has to have a particular end result. It is just about that energetic exchange of showing up in the way that where the culture is in a given moment. And, everything is reciprocal, we put energy into something and it shows back up for us, even if it's not in a direct exchange kind of way. So I think that there is, even for meditators who want to follow charm, who should follow charm, who are ultimately cultivating that intuitive sense of not overthinking, but relying on all the confluence of the senses to direct them moment to moment, we have to recognize that part of our mistaken intellect that we're ever correcting as meditators, that little bit of stress that might still live in us, and the pragyaparad, as we call it in Sanskrit, there is a practical value to sometimes doing that which you don't want to do because you're surrendering the immediate preference of avoiding the social media or doing the hard yoga pose or doing the vocal exercise that your voice really needs, but it's very laborious and pedantic to do every day. You do that in the greater service of what it elicits and frees within yourself.